What's going on, YouTube? So the Mazda crossover lineup has seen a lot of changes in the recent years, and today we're standing next to the newest addition. This, of course, is the Mazda CX-70. It's seeing some major changes for 2026, giving it a lot more standard features to compete in this competitive segment. So does this CX-70 have the secret sauce buyers are looking for in 2026? That's what we're here to find out today.
Let's start things out here under the hood with a quick spec dump. Now with this base model, you're going to have a 3.3 liter turbo inline six with a mild hybrid system making 280 horsepower. It's going to have standard all-wheel drive and power is routed to the ground through a 8-speed automatic transmission.
Now the base price for this model this year is $42,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, of course, this is a real-world 7-day review, so we have quite a lot of impressions to share after living with it, as well as things like our real-world fuel economy. And, of course, we'll also tell you if we like it better, the same, or worse after living with it.
But this CX-70 is packing a lot of luxury and style, so let's go ahead and start with the exterior, followed by the interior design.
So let's start out here with the exterior design of the CX-70. But before I get to some of the individual design touches, I do want to hit a couple trim level differences for 2026. Now, when it comes to the plug-in hybrid model, Mazda has really reduced the price point down quite significantly this year and replaced the existing trim levels with SC and SC Plus. We'll try and get a dedicated review so you can see what you'll get on that model. But as far as the inline six cylinders, all those trim levels are going to remain the same. So that means up here in the front, you're going to have a very sporty Mazda grille. It's finished in that darkened chrome, and it looks really quite nice. Overall, the CX-70 has a similar look to the CX-90, except you have a couple special elements like over here on the lower bumper area to give you that sportier design cue. Now, let's take a look at our headlights because Mazda always does some really premium headlights, and the CX-70 is no different. As you can see, we have a projector LED as standard equipment, and also here on this model, we have adaptive ability. So this actually will bend as you turn the steering wheel. We found these headlights to work really well over the past week, and you also have your daytime running light and turn signal indicator over on that side.
Now headed to the wheels, you're going to have a update here for 2026. All inline six models will have standard 21-inch alloys for 2026, and that would include this model that we have here. It's a black design on this model. You can get a contrast design on some of your top trims, and of course you have the new blacked out Mazda emblem, new for 2026. Now moving up, keep in mind that unless you go for a Turbo S model, you will have cladding on your wheel arches and your lower body molding. And you'll also have a gloss black painted mirror. You have standard heating and blind spot monitoring. Now another new feature for 2026 is that the premium trim and above will come with standard power folding mirrors as well as auto dimming, which is a really premium feature for this segment.
Now, one of the interesting things about the CX-70 is the fact that it's actually the exact same length as the bigger brother CX-90. It's 201.6 inches, which is absolutely massive for this segment. We'll talk about interior space a little bit later on. And as far as design, we have blacked out window surrounds, the blacked out roof rails up here at the top, and also blacked out door handles. Overall, this CX-70 definitely has a very sporty feel for this segment. And as we head around to the rear, we're once again going to see that signature classy and elegant Mazda design. I absolutely have to say I love the way this vehicle looks. Over the past week, we've gotten quite a few compliments on it as well. We have a spoiler up here at the top, a rear window wiper, our darkened Mazda branding, and let's take a look at our taillights, of course. These are going to be very premium, full LED taillights, standard on every single model. So you have your LED accenting going through here, LED fading turn signal indicator, and an LED reverse light as well. And then as we drop down to the lower fascia, we have a little bit of accenting. Most of it's going to be finished in body color, and all of the inline six cylinders tow 5,000 pounds. Now, as far as your safety systems, Mazda includes every single one of those as standard equipment on the CX-70. So that will even include things like adaptive cruise control with a highway assist function. We found all of those to work really well over the past week when we were putting them to the test. But guys, there's a lot to talk about on the inside and some really important new standard features. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16.
We started young, and since then we have reviewed over 2,000 vehicles at every price point. No matter what you're looking for, from humble to high-end, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars.
All right, so let's go ahead and get out of these 30-mile-an-hour winds, making it feel like 0 degrees outside, to check out the interior. But first, we'll look at the key. It's your standard Mazda key. You have your buttons here along the side, and all models will come with standard smart entry. That means when I walk up to the door, I can just put my hand behind the handle, the mirrors will pop out, and check out this really beautiful and luxurious interior for the CX-70. It looks nice, and it's going to have a lot of really great features too, starting with these seats. Standard on all models is going to be a full leather seat. This is the Premium Plus trim level, so we have the Napa leather seat. It's a really beautiful design, lots of contrast stitching, got this black detail down the center, and you can see a CX-70 exclusive, which is this red interior color, to really bump up the sportiness for this model. Now, all models will have a standard 8-way power adjusting seat with 2 ways of lumbar support. Now, also a new standard feature this year is going to be memory seating, which you can see over there to the left of your steering wheel. But let's go ahead and climb inside and check out the rest of the features and details. Now that we're inside, we can check out the luxurious cabin materials for this CX-70, and it is really nice, guys. Starting out on the armrest, you have a leatherette wrapped armrest with a stitching detail, more leatherette here through the center. You have a faux carbon fiber look here on this model, and then all the way across the top, you're going to have plenty of soft touch materials. A full leather wrapped dashboard here with more of that beautiful stitching detail. And then down here in the middle, you have the faux carbon fiber effect again, as well as a fully leather wrapped knee rest as well for ultra comfort. Everything is put together really well, and these materials feel absolutely phenomenal for the segment. Let's go and start it up with the standard push button start. Now, as we've mentioned throughout this video already, Mazda is doing a lot to add standard features across the entire lineup this year. So let's go ahead and dive into some of these unique interior details. Starting things out with your gauge cluster, all but your base trim is going to come with a 12.3-inch fully digital gauge cluster. It's a really nice design, not a ton of customization, but overall a really nice look and is easy to use. And then even more up above that, you do have a head-up display that comes on all but the base model as well, which is really nice to have. Moving back to your wheel, you're going to have a standard leatherette wrapped one. It's going to be power on your Turbo S models only, and new standard to the lineup this year is going to be a heated steering wheel. I really appreciate that today, except for when I have to take a turn, because these lines right here mark the edge of your heating, so it's only going to be for this, I guess I'd say only about half of it. I really wish Mazda would just make it a full 360 heated steering wheel. Rain sensing wipers are also going to be standard across the lineup. But now let's go ahead and move to your interior storage, where Mazda is not going to be class leading. As you can see, we have our donuts in here because of course that is our logo. We like to do the donut test to see how much you can get in the center console. And for this Mazda CX-70, it's going to be 7 donuts. Compared to things like the Santa Fe in this class where you can get a full 2 dozen inside, it's certainly going to be a little lacking. Now moving forward to that, you have 2 cup holders as well as a standard wireless phone charging pad for all of your inline 6 models. And overall, the cabin ergonomics are lacking a little bit. You know, if you have a tall water bottle here, it's still going to block your climate controls. Really wish Mazda would just use this large space a little bit better. Now you do have an electronic shifter here. It's a little confusing to use, but you get used to it over the week. You just go over to the right and back for drive, up for reverse. And when you go into reverse, you're going to have a 360-degree camera. That's going to be standard on your Premium Plus and your Turbo S models. Resolution overall is pretty good, and you do have active trajectory. And then you just bump over the shifter into park, and you also have some paddle shifters up here on the steering wheel for some enthusiastic Mazda driving. Now back behind your shifter, you're going to have a couple of different control knobs, but let's go ahead and look at your volume knob first. Standard on all but the base model is going to be a 12-speaker Bose Centerpoint sound system, and let's go ahead and give that a sample. overall sound quality is pretty good. Typical with the Bose sound system, it's a little bit bass heavy. But now let's go ahead and move on up the dash a little bit to your climate controls. Standard on all models is going to be a 3-zone automatic climate system, which is really nice to see. And there's another standard feature which we are even happier to see for 2026. All CX-70 models are now going to come standard with heated as well as ventilated seats. I'm only going to show you there for a second because I'm freezing. But that is a fantastic standard feature for 2026. Really kind of a class exclusive offering. Can't think of many others that offer that functionality. Now moving up a little bit more, you're going to see your standard 12.3-inch display. Overall resolution and programming has worked pretty well for us this week. Overall, it's a really nice display. You can touch the screen, but only in wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And speaking of those functionalities, I do want to mention a 2026 update that does pertain to that new SC plug-in hybrid model. Those models will not have any wireless CarPlay or Android Auto for 2026. They'll have the same screen, they'll have the same software, but for some reason Mazda decided, no, you're going to have to use a wire instead. So a little bit of a weird thing there, but most of your other controls for the screen are going to be done through the knob down at the bottom of the dashboard here, and overall functionality worked pretty well this week. Now up top, you're going to have a standard auto-dimming mirror with HomeLink universal remotes. And then also another standard feature is a standard size sunroof. If you get this Premium Plus trim or a Turbo S model, you will get this panoramic setup, which does open up.
All right, so let's check out the CX-70's rear seat. We certainly put that to the test this week, and we left very impressed because overall space figures are exactly the same as the Mazda CX-90. So we're sitting at 39 inches of legroom, 39 inches of headroom. So really good numbers for the segment when it comes to overall legroom. It's better than most of the rivals. And of course, we brought along the official Car Confections ruler. The reason we do that is so we can get a realistic knee room figure for you. This is my own 5'9" seating position, and look at that. We are looking at 10 inches of knee room. That is absolutely fantastic. My feet can also slide up underneath of these seats, and these seats, by the way, can slide forward a really good distance and also go back a good distance, as well as having the ability to recline as well. There we go. Finally got the lever pulled to really maximize your comfort. Now, here in the center area, we do have a fold-down center armrest with 2 cup holders inside, and we're not done with features because we have our own climate vents back here, 2 USB ports, our own climate controls, and check this out. Over here on the left-hand side is a really nice feature I'm stoked about. Heated back seats are now standard on all CX-70s for 2026. So adding to that standard feature list, you've probably seen it throughout the entire video. There's a lot standard on that base preferred trim level. Now, also standard on all models are these rear window sunshades. You can see those right there. The rest of the door trim is really nicely done. The same materials as the front with a lot of leatherette and padded armrest portion. You also have a surprising amount of door storage. As you can see, you could easily fit 3 bottles with a little bit of room to spare. So even though you don't have a ton of center console space, you do have more space in the doors, that's for sure. Speaking of the doors, they do open at nearly 90 degrees, which is certainly very helpful when loading in car seats. Now let's walk up to the tailgate. We do have a Power One as standard equipment on all models. If you want hands-free, you have to choose something besides just that base model. Now, let's go ahead and talk about overall cargo capacity. So that's another area where this vehicle does really well for the segment. Well, mainly because it is the same as the CX-90, except you're not going to have a third row here in the CX-70. So what we're looking at is about 39 cubic feet of space. And if we fold those seats down, which we can easily do with these little buttons right here to electronically fold them, that gives us our maximum of around 75 cubic feet. Now, compared to a lot of the rivals, that certainly is going to be really good for this segment. And speaking of its competition, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. The reason you should do that is because we've looked at all the 2-row midsize SUVs on the market and ranked them in individual categories that might matter most to you. Things like cargo capacity, interior technology, luxury features, powertrain, and of course value. It's all broken down for you so you can see the best options in each of those categories and make an informed buying decision. Now, let's go ahead and get our cargo length, width, and height figures. As you can see, the second row does fold 60-40 split. From behind my own 5'9" seating position, we're looking at 85 inches of cargo length. From behind the second row, 48 inches of length. That's really fantastic due to the length of this vehicle. 43 inches wide is our opening, and the height is a little over 29 inches tall. Let's get our load-in height as well. It's a little windy, so I'm trying to keep it straight here. About 32 inches is our overall height. If we lift up the floor, you have a little bit of extra space, and where the third row is on the CX-90, you have even more space underneath. And then there's also a spare tire that's integrated underneath of the floor here, so that's something that a lot of the rivals, especially any type of hybridized rival, is getting rid of. Additionally, we even have a household style outlet. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the 2026 Mazda CX-70. In this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a lot, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting things like our sound level reading and discussing our real-world fuel economy after living with it this week. But first, we've got to start with a hard acceleration.
Oh, yeah.
All right, and that was an acceleration past 60 miles per hour in the Mazda CX-70. Now, as you can tell from that acceleration, this is a pretty quick offering for the segment, and we also have something that's pretty uncommon for the segment, and that's a 6-cylinder engine under the hood. So what we have is actually the standard powertrain on today's example. So this is a 3.3-liter turbo inline 6-cylinder with mild hybrid technology. Overall horsepower is sitting at 280 horsepower, 332 pound-feet of torque, though. So I really want to kind of zero in on that torque figure. 332 pound-feet of torque is really, really good for this segment. 280 horsepower is also pretty strong. And you'll notice that, just kind of driving this vehicle around, it certainly feels pretty peppy for the segment. A lot of the rivals might be in the, mid 200 range. This is definitely going to be on the higher end for the segment.
Yeah, and I think standard is a great way to describe this powertrain because it sounds far from base when it comes to this inline 6-cylinder. It sounds ridiculously refined for the segment where a lot of its rivals are going to be using turbocharged 4-cylinders. This is really a nice change of pace for this segment and really fits this product really well.
Yeah, and that's not all, because you can also get the Turbo S powertrain, which also has this same 3.3-liter turbo inline 6-cylinder, but with a different tune on it to give you 340 horsepower. So if you're power hungry, the CX-70 definitely has you covered in that Turbo S variant. But for those of you concerned about, just overall livability, the standard powertrain is more than enough for most people.
Yeah, and that model is going to be making even more torque at 369 pound-feet of torque, and you're also going to have another powertrain option as well. That would be the plug-in hybrid. That engine has actually seen some tweaks for the 26 model year. They've done the whole thing with the SC and SC Plus trim levels, but the engine itself has gotten a few tweaks. It's a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder with battery componentry, making 323 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. But the big change for this year is that it's actually getting more electric range, so you go from 26 miles up to 30 miles of total range. Mazda wasn't too specific about what the changes were. We assume it's going to be with all of the weight savings because there are going to be less features, no sunroof, certain things like that to help make things a little bit more efficient for that EV driving experience.
Alright, and there was another little acceleration, and that highlights another aspect of the powertrain, which is an 8-speed automatic on all CX-70s. Overall, over the past week, we've found this transmission to behave pretty smoothly, although I do want to just kind of dive into the mild hybrid system and its overall performance, because that's another thing we noticed this week. This does have a pretty aggressive mild hybrid system, so when you're just kind of cruising down the road, not accelerating hard, it will go ahead and flip the engine off that of course helps you to get really good fuel economy. However, we did notice this week it's a little bit laggy at times, so especially if you press the gas, and it's turned off and it wasn't necessarily expecting you to need the engine, it has that slight hesitation. So we found that to be a little bit aggravating. You can turn off the mild hybrid system. It's called iStop, and it's over here on the left-hand side. So honestly, I imagine a lot of you guys might be doing that because it is very aggressive and it will turn on and off a bunch, even just cruising down the highway. But another important aspect is ride quality, so let's go ahead and hit that. In typical Mazda fashion, we have pretty good ride quality. Now, I say pretty good because Mazdas definitely tend to be on the firmer side for the most part. So looking at its competitive set, things like a Toyota Crown Signia, a Hyundai Santa Fe, a Kia Sorento, those are all going to be significantly more comfort focused than this model. You will feel some of the road intrusion when you have this product, and now that they have the standard 21-inch alloy wheels on all models, that does mean that you have a pretty large wheel size as well. So just be aware of that when you're driving the CX-70. It's definitely going to be a little bit more on the firm side. And, we experienced that. We took it on a road trip, and the firm ride with the slightly firmer seats, I think, is a combo that makes it a little bit more uncomfortable, I think.
Yeah, Mazda's kind of have that reputation for a little bit firmer, more sporty, and more firm seats as well, and we did experience that with the CX-70. It's not the most uncomfortable seats in the Mazda lineup. I think it's definitely an upgrade from things like a CX-50, but still, we wish they'd just be a little bit more plush. Yep. We're almost there. Give us a little bit more Mazda.
That's part of the reason why it is a little bit firmer, is because of the sporty character of this car. That was an acceleration in sport mode. And before I talk about dynamics, let's go ahead and get our sound level reading because we are on our designated strip of road here.
We're on fan speed 1 and the rear climate is turned off. Very nice. We're sitting at 57.2 decibels in the 26 CX-70, and I don't have to sit here and guess how it compares to all of its many rivals. I'll go to carconfections.com/sound level readings. Now that reading does put it on the quieter end of the segment, and that is really good considering how windy it is outside today. If you didn't see us blowing around in the first part of the review, it's quite blustery outside, so the fact that I can pull off that sound level reading is a nod to all the luxury Mazda's putting in this CX-70.
Yeah, and the engine is actually kicked off there, and then when I let my foot off the brake, that's actually when it turns it back on. And let's go ahead and get to the sport part of our drive here. So I'll toggle it back into the sport mode because I think that's one of the areas where this car really shines, is just the driving dynamics. Over the past week, it really has been a joy to drive, which is typically something you do not say about this segment. The steering feel is phenomenal in typical Mazda fashion. It is just so good. And as you'll see, as I go around this corner up here, it does also have amazing body control, especially for a vehicle of this size. You may have heard me talk about it on the outside, but this CX-70 is the same size as the 90, which is over 200 inches in length. And the fact that I can whip it around a corner like that with confidence really makes me feel like I'm in more of a German luxury SUV than any of its mainstream competition. So if driving dynamics really matters to you, this CX-70 is really in a league of its own for its segment, that's for sure. Just be aware you will sacrifice a little bit for that when it comes to the ride quality.
Now, the fun driving characteristic aside, how does this live in the day-to-day when it comes to fuel economy? Well, let's start out with your EPA ratings. Both of your inline 6 models are going to be rated at 25 mpg combined, which is really fantastic considering the top model has so much more horsepower. So that is really nice. You're not going to have to sacrifice in that perspective very much. But how is our real-world fuel economy over this past week? Well, that is equally as impressive. over 220 miles of mixed city and highway driving on a little bit of a colder week as well. We are sitting at 26.2 mpg overall through all of that driving. I mean, that is honestly pretty incredible for this segment.
Yeah, guys, I am very blown away by that fuel economy. I honestly was expecting the real world to be less than what the EPA was saying, because the EPA number is really good for the segment, and it was getting, I mean, honestly, like 28, 29 miles per gallon on the highway, just because this is such an efficient powertrain. So I'm very impressed by what Mazda is doing here. Of course, you have standard all-wheel drive as well, and particularly on this base powertrain, this uses regular fuel instead of premium on the Turbo S models. So on regular fuel to still be getting those numbers, I think that's very good as well. Now let's get into our slam dunk and airball, our favorite and least favorite element. I'll kick us off with the slam dunk and say that the 2026 improvements that Mazda has made to this product, I think, are really great, particularly on that base CX-70 model. The fact that you get all of that as standard equipment, as you saw throughout this video, for around 43 grand, I think is an exceptional steal. And then after living with this base powertrain, I don't even think that's really too much of a penalty at all either.
Yes, for sure. But something that I do feel like is a penalty, which will be our airball today, is the overall cabin ergonomics. You know, we love to take these cars home to our families and show our wives these vehicles that we get to test. And when it comes to things like these cup holders, when you put a big cup in here and it blocks half the climate controls, it just really makes us feel like Mazda didn't fully think out this space, especially when there's so much surface area here to work with. So overall, we wish Mazda would improve that for a lot of their SUV lineup, including the CX-70.
Yeah. And do we like it better, the same, or worse after living with it? I think that's going to be a resounding better, because we had never lived with this base turbo inline 6-cylinder powertrain, and we like all the other elements about this vehicle for various reasons we've already discussed, but this base powertrain really left us impressed with the fuel economy and the performance. And of course, we need to discuss pricing. So like I said at the very beginning of this video, this vehicle starts at around $42,250 this year, which I think, given all the standard features that we talked about in this video, is a very attractive price point. If you want to get a steal, that's probably the one to get. Now, of course, as you move up the trim structure, it elevates in price. What we're looking at today is the top-end standard output, the 3.3 Turbo Premium Plus. So we start at $49,570. We have a couple options on this model: 1530 destination, 51,945 as tested today, which I think is a pretty good price point. If you're curious as to where this vehicle is manufactured, it is manufactured in Japan as well. And then, of course, keep in mind, if you want something more luxurious, you can get the Turbo S trim levels, which of course will be a little bit higher in the $50,000 price points. Now, if you're looking to buy a Mazda CX-70 or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you should do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool to use while dealership negotiating. If you'd like to take advantage of that, as well as things like our monthly payment tool, you can find a link to that down below in our video description, as well as a pinned comment at the top of this video. Buying a vehicle is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's talk about resale and reliability. First up, let's talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, we took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this Mazda CX-70's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it will be worth 59.44% of original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 25.28%. Now, it's worth noting that is actually a really good resale value metric, especially in the 5-year metric. It's actually the 4th best of all vehicle brands that we look at, so that's very impressive and better than most of its rivals.
Now, we've also done the same for reliability by creating the Combined Reliability Index, which takes into account a variety of different data from trusted automotive resources to give you a more holistic picture. Based on our data, Mazda is rated just above the overall industry average.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale values, our reliability data, or our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a new vehicle is a big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you cross-shop between different vehicle brands. Now, when it comes to your warranty, that's also important in that decision process. We have a 3-year 36,000-mile basic warranty and a 5-year 60,000-mile powertrain warranty. Unfortunately, Mazda does not do complimentary maintenance. And guys, that wraps up our in-depth 7-day review of the 2026 Mazda CX-70. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decision, which we hope you did, we'd really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to be a part of our Car Confections family. We have a lot of fun on this channel, and we also strive to cover the latest and greatest so you can see the model year to model year changes if you're looking to buy a new vehicle. If you're already a fan and subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. And if you're not already, we'd love to welcome you in. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.